Right now, in private Facebook groups, Telegram channels, and late-night YouTube live streams, thousands of people believe something huge is about to happen. They believe the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong are about to revalue. Some believe it could happen this week. Others believe it already quietly started. And if it's true, they say ordinary people holding stacks of this currency could wake up rich. But here's the question almost nobody stops to ask. If this were really about to happen, why has any day now been the exact same message for over 20 years? In the next few minutes, we're going to walk through what this claim actually is, how the theory works, what evidence, if any, actually supports it, and why so many people keep believing it anyway. No hype, no fear-mongering, just the facts laid out clearly. Because understanding how a financial belief spreads is sometimes just as important as knowing whether it's true. Let's start from the beginning. To understand this story, we have to go back to 2003. After the fall of Saddam Hussein's government, Iraq's economy was in chaos. Its currency, the dinar, had lost the vast majority of its value due to years of war, sanctions, and hyperinflation. The Central Bank of Iraq issued an entirely new dinar note in 2003. In the years since, the exchange rate has settled and stabilized in a fairly narrow range, generally somewhere between about 1,170 and 1,470 dinar per US dollar, depending on the year. As of late 2025, it was trading at roughly 1,418 dinar per dollar. That's according to standard exchange rate data and the Central Bank of Iraq's own published figures. Around this same period, a theory started spreading, mostly online, that Iraq's central bank would soon revalue its currency back to something close to its pre-Gulf War value. Believers argued that if you bought dinar for pennies now and the value shot back up later, you could turn a small investment into a fortune. This idea became known in online communities simply as the RV, short for revaluation. Years later, a similar theory attached itself to the Vietnamese Dong, a currency that has also been historically weak against the US dollar. The logic repeated: buy low now, wait for a dramatic revaluation, and cash in later. Both theories built loyal, passionate online communities. Some call themselves dinarians. Others post daily intel, insider tips supposedly from banking contacts, government sources, or international committees. The claim has evolved constantly since 2003. Dates come and go. Reasons for the delay change. But the core promise, a sudden currency jump making early buyers wealthy, has stayed the same for 2 decades. So the real question becomes, how is this actually supposed to work? Central Bank of Iraq CBI.IQ. Wikipedia Currency Data Summary of Iraqi Dinar Exchange Rates, citing CBI figures as of December 2025. According to dinar and dong revaluation theories, here's the basic idea. A country's central bank can, in theory, change the official exchange rate of its currency. This is a real financial mechanism. Countries have revalued or devalued currencies before for real economic reasons. Believers argue that Iraq and Vietnam are sitting on enough oil, gold, or foreign reserves to justify a dramatic increase in their currency's value overnight, sometimes claiming it could jump from a fraction of a cent to several dollars per unit. The theory usually includes a few common elements. Secret meetings between global banks and governments. A hidden reset of the global financial system. Specific dates tied to holidays, elections, or geopolitical events. And insider gurus who claim access to information the public and the media don't have. Believers are usually told to hold their currency, remain patient, and avoid selling, because it could happen any day. This structure is worth remembering because we're about to compare it to how real currency revaluations actually happen in the global economy and how central banks actually communicate policy changes. That comparison is where the story starts to shift. Let's look at what economists and financial institutions actually say about this. First, real currency revaluations do happen, but they are gradual, tied to measurable economic fundamentals like inflation control, trade balances, and central bank policy. They are not secret. They are announced through official channels like a country's central bank or finance ministry. Second, the Central Bank of Iraq has directly and publicly addressed this. In a statement issued in late November 2025, the bank said it had achieved historically low inflation and stated there was, in its words, no intention whatsoever of amending the dinar's exchange rate, explicitly rejecting revaluation rumors as speculation aimed at disrupting the market. Vietnam's central bank, the State Bank of Vietnam, similarly manages the dong through gradual interest rate and foreign exchange tools, not sudden overnight resets, and no credible financial institution has confirmed any planned dramatic revaluation of the dong either. Third, currency value is tied to a country's actual economic output, reserves, and trade, not simply to how many people around the world are buying and holding the currency as a speculative bet. Fourth, and maybe most telling, financial journalists tracking this claim have documented that some version of its happening now has circulated for more than 2 decades, since at least 2003, without the predicted event occurring. This pattern, a big promised event that keeps getting delayed, re-explained, and pushed to a new date, is a recognizable pattern in speculative claims generally, not just currency ones. When a prediction fails, the explanation shifts rather than the belief itself. That doesn't necessarily mean everyone talking about it is acting in bad faith. Many believers are genuinely convinced and are sharing what they believe is helpful information with others. But the absence of confirmation from any official financial authority over such a long period of time is a serious evidentiary gap. So if there's no confirmed mechanism behind it, who benefits from keeping the theory alive? Central Bank of Iraq official statement. Reported by Iraq Business News, CBI denies dinar revaluation rumors as inflation falls November 24, 2025. State Bank of Vietnam manage float policy, as described in Reserve Bank of New Zealand affiliated reporting, RNZ News. Investing in Vietnamese currency. Dong. No sure bet. Expert says August 25, 2025, Iraq Business News, the Iraqi Dinar revaluation deception. 10 persistent false claims exposed September 28, 2025. This is where the story shifts from currency theory to online business models. Speculative claims like this one often generate consistent, ongoing attention, and attention online can be monetized. Some accounts and channels build large audiences by posting frequent updates, intel, or insider leaks about the supposed revaluation. This content can generate ad revenue, channel memberships, and donations. Some sellers offer dinar or dong currency directly to buyers. Because Iraqi dinar generally cannot be bought or sold through standard U.S. banks, buyers are often directed to private currency dealers instead, and according to Alabama's state securities regulator, those dealers can charge a markup of 20% or more above any reasonable exchange value, since no open, regulated exchange for the currency exists. Others promote paid groups, subscriptions, consulting calls, or exchange strategy services. Advice on how and where to supposedly cash in currency once a revaluation happens. None of this automatically proves bad intent. Selling foreign currency itself isn't illegal, and people are allowed to speculate on financial assets. But it does create something important to understand: a financial incentive for the story to keep going, regardless of whether the underlying claim ever comes true. As long as people keep believing it's about to happen, there's an audience for updates, products, and services tied to that hope. This is a pattern regulators have flagged repeatedly over more than a decade, where hope, not verified information, becomes the product being sold. Which raises the next question. Have any authorities actually stepped in? Alabama Securities Commission, investor alert referencing Director Joseph Board's comments on dinar dealer markups. WHNE News 19 Alabama, Iraqi dinar investment. Smart move or scam? Washington State Department of Financial Institutions Consumer Alert, Iraqi dinar scams. Regulators in the United States have been warning about this for a long time, and in several cases, they've taken action. The Better Business Bureau listed Iraqi dinar investment opportunities as one of its top 10 scams of 2013, warning that promoters often use real news events to make their pitches feel more credible. On the enforcement side, in 2016, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission brought a case against a Utah man, Joshua J. Hansen, who the SEC alleged sold dinar-related securities to investors while falsely claiming access to a multi-billion-dollar account and inside knowledge of an imminent revaluation. Hansen settled with the SEC, admitting to violating securities law and agreeing to repay roughly $1.7 million to investors. The U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission has pursued multiple Forex fraud cases specifically tied to dinar and dong schemes. In one case, the CFTC won a judgment of more than $22.6 million against a foreign exchange promoter and his Alabama-based company over a scheme built around finance currency trading in Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong. In a separate 2018 case, the CFTC sought over $103 million in penalties against another currency promoter and his companies for a similar dinar-based fraud scheme. On the criminal side, the Department of Justice, FBI, and IRS criminal investigation prosecuted executives connected to Sterling Currency Group, at one time one of the largest Iraqi dinar sellers in the U.S. In October 2018, several defendants were convicted of conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud for spreading misinformation about the dinar's investment potential. More recently, in September 2025, a Florida sheriff's office issued a public scam alert after seeing a rise in requests involving Vietnamese currency, warning residents that any large, sudden revaluation was extremely unlikely. The consistent theme across all of these warnings and cases: be cautious of any opportunity promising guaranteed, dramatic returns built on urgency or secrecy without confirmation from a recognized financial institution. WHNT News 19, citing the Better Business Bureau's top 10 scams of 2013, Forbes dinar scam takes on new twist. SECV. Joshua J. Hansen. CFTC press release. CFTC wins Forex fraud trial. Monetary judgment of more than $22.6 million case involving Monex Incorporated and Theodore S. Hudson 2. Law 360. CFTC demands 103M in Iraqi currency fraud case. U.S. Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office, Northern District of Georgia. Press release on the Sterling Currency Group indictment and convictions. Bay County Sheriff's Office Florida Scam Alert. Reported by WMBMyPinhandle.com, September 2025. Behind every viral currency claim, there are real people making real financial decisions. Regulators and journalists who have covered this topic for years consistently describe the same pattern. Individuals, including retirees and people nearing retirement, putting meaningful savings into dinar or dong purchases in hopes of a life-changing revaluation. For some, holding this currency has meant years of waiting, watching for news, and repeatedly hearing that this is finally the moment, only to see that moment pass again. This kind of prolonged uncertainty can take a toll beyond just finances. It can affect trust, relationships, and peace of mind, especially for people who invested money they couldn't easily afford to lose. It's important to say clearly, believing in this theory doesn't make someone foolish. Financial hope, especially during hard economic times, is a very human thing. Many people are simply looking for a way to improve their situation, and they're trusting information shared by people they believe are looking out for them. But that's exactly why understanding the evidence and the incentives behind the claim matters so much. Because the real question isn't just could this happen? It's what should I actually do with my money while I wait to find out? Let's talk about that next. Forbes, you can't fix stupid. The Iraqi Dinar scam lives, describing retirees and elderly investors as frequent targets of Forex-related dinar schemes. U.S. Department of Justice press release on the Sterling Currency Group case, describing the scheme's impact on investors. If your goal is genuinely to grow or protect your savings, financial experts generally point towards strategies that are transparent, regulated, and based on verifiable information, not private insider intel. That can include diversified investing through regulated markets, low-cost index funds, retirement accounts, and traditional savings vehicles, all of which are backed by public performance data and regulatory oversight. It can also mean simply talking to a licensed, independent financial advisor, someone with no product to sell you, no currency to trade you, and no incentive tied to a specific outcome happening. If you're ever evaluating any investment opportunity, currency-related or otherwise, a few questions can help protect you. Is this confirmed by an official, regulated financial institution? Does the person promoting it benefit financially if I buy in? Is there urgency or secrecy pushing me to act quickly? And can I find this information anywhere outside of this one community? If the answers raise concerns, it's worth pausing and doing independent research or speaking with a licensed financial professional before making a decision. Protecting your money often isn't about finding the one big secret opportunity. It's about avoiding preventable losses. So where does that leave the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong story today? So what actually happened? Based on everything we've reviewed, there is no confirmed evidence from any recognized central bank, government, or financial institution that a dramatic Iraqi dinar or Vietnamese dong revaluation has occurred or is officially planned. If anything, the opposite is true. The Central Bank of Iraq has publicly and directly denied any such plans as recently as November 2025, and Vietnam's central bank continues to manage the dong through the same gradual tools it always has. What we do have is a claim that has persisted for over 2 decades, a passionate online community, and a range of people and platforms that benefit financially from keeping the story alive, regardless of whether it ever comes true. That doesn't mean every believer is being deceived on purpose, and it doesn't mean the topic isn't worth understanding. It means it deserves the same thing every financial decision deserves: healthy skepticism, independent research, and verified sources. If this video helped you understand the topic more clearly, consider subscribing for more evidence-based breakdowns of viral financial claims. And if you know someone who's currently holding dinar or dong hoping for a revaluation, maybe share this with them. Not to argue with them, but simply to open up an honest conversation. Thanks for watching. This content is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice.